Okay, students, we here at Valencia College really want to help out our students in writing better papers and structuring better papers. So I'm going to go over here how to properly set up a paper and then how to properly format a paper in the way that we are seeking for in the history department, okay? So let me first go over what the expectations are going to be on the paper you're going to be writing for in my class. First and foremost, it's going to be a history paper based upon whichever topic you want to pick, okay? As long as it is 1877 to the modern era and it is based around United States history, then you can write on that subject. Now, again, if you did not watch my introduction video, let me be clear, I want you to write on a very specific topic. Do not try to write on World War II as a whole. I would rather that you wrote on World War II like a specific battle, a specific general, a specific individual, or a specific campaign. Try to narrow it down though as low as you can in order to make it the best paper that you can. All right, so with that in mind, let's take a look at a paper that I wrote here and some of the elements that you are going to try to build off of. For example, if I was write a paper. Now, as you can see, this is my paper. This is the structure of it. I will upload this paper so that you can see it and you can use it kind of as a template and as a guide. Once you have done that, you can then just kind of copy and paste through as you needed to. Now, how do I say get things specific? So, for example, this is a Civil War paper that I wrote for my class. But as you can tell, it's a very narrow idea of a paper. I mean, it's Mormon premillennial beliefs, okay? This is a subsection of society that was around during the Civil War and what they believe and how they saw the war. When we are starting our paper, the first thing that we need to do is construct a thesis statement. Your thesis statement is basically your conclusion that you're going to come to when writing your paper. This is your guide. This is what you're going to prove in your paper and what people are going to read in your paper. Your thesis statement is going to open that door so they know that what they're reading about. So, for example, in this paper, when we come to see mine, it is a very long thesis statement. Yours does not have to be this long, but this is an example of a thesis statement, okay? I'm highlighting it now. The Mormons refused to support the Civil War because they saw the Civil War as a punishment against the nation for their persecution, for the murder of their prophet Joseph Smith, their premillennialist beliefs that they would rebuild the country in preparation for the second coming of Jesus Christ, and clumsy federal handling of the Mormon population in Utah. That is what this paper covers. Okay, I know there's a lot to that, but this is also a 20-plus page paper, so it needs to have a long thesis to go over everything that is going to be covered. Once you have constructed your thesis statement, your paper needs to prove this thesis statement. It means your conclusions need to match what is stated in your thesis statement. If you come to your thesis statement, you make your claim and you're like, this is what's going to happen, this is the conclusions that I'm coming to, and you start doing research and you find nothing that backs your claim, in fact everything is opposite of what you're trying to prove, then you need to change your thesis statement to the appropriate one, showing your new conclusions. Do not be afraid to do this. My final thesis that I wrote for my master's program, which is over 100 pages, changed about 7 times. So understand, rewriting a thesis is not a bad thing. It just shows that you are doing research and that your direction of research has changed. And it's okay to change your research topics too in the middle of it, okay? Do not be afraid of that. Now, when we have the thesis statement, we're going to start putting research into the paper. We're going to start finding resources. As you can see, I have numerous little things down here, my citations, that are going to be proving my thesis. Okay, I'm going to use a couple different types of sources. There are really 2 major sources that we use in history. The first is primary sources. Primary sources are things directly written by people who were there at the time and were direct witnesses to the event This usually would be like if a newspaper reporter was at a battle of the Civil War and recounted the entirety of the battle because they were right there on the front line, or if you found a Civil War soldier's journal and you were reading the journal, that would be a primary resource. Or if you had a general and he wrote a biography that covered that battle in particular, that is also a primary source. These are people that were directly at the historical event as it happened. These are the best things to use in history. It shows that you know the subject that you are talking about. The other items that you're going to be using is secondary sources. Those might be books, those might be papers that have been written on the subject, so you can use those sources too. I would prefer books and I would prefer academic papers as your secondary sources. I do not want you to use Wikipedia or history.com. I want you to actually find some resources and some actual academic papers. If you are struggling with this, Valencia has a very deep digital archive that is helpful, okay? Or if you are questioning if a source is credible and you can use it, feel free to email me and I will look it over and be like, yes, that is a good source or that is a bad source. Primary sources are the best. Secondary sources are highly approved. And the other sources from those less reputable websites are not wanted at all, okay? So make sure that you reach out to me trying to see if that is an appropriate source to use, okay? How do you do sources? How do you cite things? Well, here we go. Let's take a look. We are going to use Chicago citations. These are going to be found in your top area of your online class. As you see, I have put a cheat sheet for the Chicago style. Use the cheat sheet. It will help you. All right, so for example, if you need to quote or cite something, this is how you cite a book. This is how you cite an ebook. This is how you cite a book with multiple authors. This is journals. You should use a lot of journals. This is an electronic journal if you need to. This is an interview. If you're writing a religious topic, you might want to be able to use the scriptures. Some people do that. This paper does have links to scripture because I have to talk about the religious backgrounds of some people. So that is important. If you have to use a website, this is how you do a website. Okay, and these are all different ways that you're going to use the cite in your book. In your paper. Now, we do something that's called footnotes when we're using Chicago style, okay? We do not do in-text citations like you would see typically in an APA or MLA class, okay? So how do we make these citations? Well, let me show you where you would find one, okay? First and foremost, the easiest way for me to show you this is to look at this sentence that I'm about to highlight right here. As you can see at the end of the citation, there's a little tiny number 1 right there. That number 1 corresponds down to the bottom of the page, as you can see right here, and this is the citation that I have used for this particular quote. If it is a quote that is less than 50, I know this one says 100, I'm 50, okay? If it is less than 50, I want you to do quotation marks around it and then put the number at the end of the sentence that you cite in. I don't care if you have this quotation in the middle of the sentence, it always goes at the end. How do you make one of these pretty little ones? Well, let's take a look. We will just grab this section right here, and if I need to put put a citation on there, I would come to the end of the sentence, end of territories. I would click right there, and then I will come up to where it says references, and then I will click on insert footnote. When I click on insert footnote, as you will see, there is a little number 4 that appears and a little number 4 that appears down here. Where that number 4 is, say for example, you are citing from this book, we'll just take it and you would put it in there, and that would be your citation, okay? Now, students ask me, Professor Lajeunesse, what if I have to cite something right after I've cited something else? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is how you would do it. Let me go ahead. We'll come down here to the lower portion of this paper, and you will find that with citation number 39 right here, you will see that this is the citation. Now, immediately after number 39, I cite the same book. Now, it'll be a different page probably, but I'm going to cite the same book, or it might be in a different section of the page. You will look at this, and you'll see this little number 40 right here. So I cite it again, and I come down, and all I do is I put IBID 57. That is only if you do it immediately after you've cited it up here. Other than that, you're just going to recite for me, okay? I'm not going to make you learn short text citations because that can get a little bit tricky, okay? Now, the question you guys may ask me next is, what if I have a longer citation that you said, over 50 words? This is what it should look like right here. You're going to create a text box. You are going to center it. See my nice little center? You're going to bring in the indents, and then you are going to change it away from double spacing. Remember, you should always double space your papers. Move it to single spacing, and you will still use Times New Roman, and you will change it to a 10. Okay? That is how you do a long text citation. Do not make your entire paper long text citations. I will get annoyed very quickly. All right. Now, at the very end here, remember we talked about our thesis statement. We're going to come down here to the very bottom, and I'm going to restate to an extent my thesis statement and end with the conclusion, okay? Now, the end of my conclusion right here, we will have right at this point. Because they saw the war as a divine judgment, they also felt it was fulfillment of the prophecy of their former leader, Joseph Smith, and thus thought the millennium was upon them. Support of the war meant defying God's punishment for the Mormons, as they sought to inherit the country and rebuild it once it had been cleansed of its sins. Once they had done this, then the second coming of Christ and the millennium would commence. All I'm doing is restating what I covered in the paper that corresponds with my thesis. So you've done all that. You made a wonderful paper. It's beautiful. You've structured it right. You've cited everything correctly. You didn't commit any acts of plagiarism whatsoever because you are that awesome student. You are going to finish your paper with your bibliography. So everything that you have cited throughout this entirety of this paper, you will then put it down here so that I can double check to make sure that you used right and proper sources, okay? Anything that you use in the paper should go down here. Do not forget to put it down here. If you are struggling at any point with your paper, reach out to me. I will help you. Do not suffer in silence. I am here to help you out. I'm not going to leave you dangling on the vine and hoping for salvation might magically come for you. I am here. I will guide you through. Do not be afraid. All right. I hope this helps you out structuring papers. I know this is a bit of a longer video, but it is very important for you to know how to build papers, okay? All right. I look forward to reading the great works that you will publish for me. And we'll look forward to reading all of that throughout our class when you do your discussion boards and your videos too. Good luck, everybody.